As we go to air tonight, there are reports Russian paratroopers have landed in Ukraine's second largest city of Kharkiv, hoping to take the besieged city. But Moscow also has Kiev in its sights, with landmarks attacked and a giant Russian military convoy now less than 30 kilometres from the capital.
In the Ukrainian capital, a missile strike, followed by another missile strike, and another missile strike. 3 surgical hits on a city in need of first aid. We've been shooting a report nearby when one flew straight over us. The blast, enormous, 5 killed. We visited the site as it was still burning.
It looks like the target was this TV tower. You can still see smoke rising from the base here. It's difficult to tell from here just how much damage was inflicted, but if they wanted to bring it down, they failed.
But it did knock out transmission from multiple television stations, an attempt, say Ukrainian officials, to cut off the country from communications so Russia can control the narrative of this war. A war being fiercely fought from the air and on the ground. A tank firing directly at buildings near Kiev with people inside. All that remains now, rubble. Moscow had warned Ukrainian civilians to leave big cities. This was one reason why. Kharkiv's Freedom Square late yesterday, when freedom clearly came under attack. At least 10 killed and a government building decimated. This car was driving past as the missiles hit. Survival or death, just a matter of chance.
Ukraine every day. You should stop it. Immediately stop it.
But that is unlikely, it seems. Russia's assault on Ukraine is intensifying. It is brutal and deadly. And despite claims it's only going after military targets like this one in the northwest, these scenes in Kharkiv suggest otherwise. Hospitals, schools, residential buildings, all targeted. Why us? We're regular folks, this woman says. The country's president accusing Moscow of state terrorism for its bombardment of Kharkiv. But despite the bloodshed, Russians have underestimated the strength of Ukraine's resistance. This video has emerged from the first day of fighting. Local troops armed with donated Stinger missiles bring down a Russian helicopter.
Yes! Yes! Here in Kiev, more blackened evidence of another fierce firefight between locals and Russians. These are tank shells scattered by the dozen down this footpath, and over here, heavy vehicle, Russian, blackened and burned. It's scenes like these that leave Ukrainians rejoicing at the success of their military and volunteers. But the threat approaching from the north right now is far more serious.
Satellites watching the slow, terrifying progress of a 64-kilometre convoy of Russian tanks headed straight for the capital. Some in the city weren't waiting for their arrival, scrambling for trains headed out that were too full to take them all. Then, in the middle of this panicked boarding, air raid sirens, as if they needed a reminder of why they were going.
Awful feeling.
Yeah?
Yes. But we don't have place.
You couldn't get on the train?
No.
It's mostly women and children, the dads and partners staying to help defend the city.
Afraid, very afraid.
Where are you going to go to? You know where you're going?
I don't know.
There's a real sense of fear and foreboding here in Kiev, in the knowledge that the Russian war machine is approaching. So many just want to get out, but there are only so many trains and too few seats.
But those who choose to stay are galvanised by Russia's aggression.
We won't give up on Ukraine. Putin is an idiot. I would rather die from starvation than be their slave.
A makeshift production line has been set up in one city basement as women sew camouflage nets for their troops. It's our duty. They die there for us, says this woman, while men line the streets to buy guns.
Russians kill little children, 5-6 years old, and we don't want it. We have to fight against it.
Ordinary Ukrainians willing to risk their lives to slow the invasion of their country. Even if it's a fight, they may be unable to win.
Let's go live now to our chief correspondent, Chris Reason in Kiev. Chris, you've just been forced to leave your hotel.
Yeah, Mark, we got a phone call from the front desk last night saying you had to be out by 8 o'clock. Then they rang back and said get out by 7 a.m. It's a sense of urgency here about the evacuation of Kiev. No panic at this stage. We're sharing this place with the UNHCR and the International Red Cross, and they had to remove their staff from their agencies too. Several hundred people. They left a few minutes ago in a convoy of buses. They invited other locals to take part and jump on the end of that convoy to drive to safety in the west of the country. Look, massive problems there. The Russians, though, are having their own problems too. That 64-kilometre convoy apparently hasn't moved at all in the last 24 hours, Mark. It's been hit with problems of shortages of food and fuel. Mark?
Chris Reason in Kiev for us. Thank you. The Ukrainian president has received a standing ovation from the European Parliament just a day after applying to join the EU. The defiant commander-in-chief pleaded with allies to prove they stand with Ukraine in an emotional speech, bringing interpreters to tears.
As war rages, Vladimir Putin has already lost on one front, his desire to divide Europe.
He has achieved exactly the opposite. We are more united than ever.
24 hours after officially applying for Ukraine to join the EU, Volodymyr Zelensky addressed European Parliament, his words reducing interpreters to tears.
We are fighting just for our land and for our freedom.
A standing ovation for a defiant commander-in-chief off to lead the defence as Boris Johnson visited neighbouring Poland. The British Prime Minister forced to explain to a Ukrainian journalist why the West isn't doing more.
Because NATO is afraid of a World War III, but it is already started. And these are Ukrainian children who are there taking the hit. We don't know where to run. This is what is happening, Prime Minister.
Look, I just want to say that I'm acutely conscious that there is not enough that we can do.
British tanks are in neighbouring Estonia, French forces touching down in Romania, and in Poland, a country also living in Russia's shadow, thousands of US paratroopers. These elements of the 82nd Airborne Division are stationed just a few kilometres from the Ukrainian border. They were moved here to bolster NATO's eastern flank. But their mission is to reassure allies only. NATO's chief also here reiterating it won't send soldiers or planes into Ukrainian airspace.
We will not do anything that can further escalate the situation.
To avoid a confrontation with Russia, but today diplomats did turn their backs. A mass walkout at the UN Human Rights Council during a speech by Russia's foreign minister. Strikingly different scenes in previously unthinkable times. On the Polish border, Sarah Greenhalgh, 7 News.
In Washington, Joe Biden has declared Vladimir Putin has no idea what's coming. The American president has used his State of the Union address to Congress to announce a blanket ban on Russian planes in US airspace.
Madam Speaker, the President of the United States.
A year into office, addressing the nation at a time of war.
6 days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways. But he badly miscalculated.
With Ukraine's ambassador watching on,
thank you.
Joe Biden delivered his first speech to a joint session of Congress as Putin's missiles rained down on Ukraine.
He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people.
With masks and COVID largely in the rear view, the president confronted the new evil.
We will join our allies in closing off American airspace to all Russian flights. He has no idea what's coming.
To Russia's oligarchs,
we're joining with European allies to find and seize their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets.
President Biden framed his opening remarks as a battle of good versus evil, democracy versus autocracy. But beyond the first 12 minutes, he pivoted from Ukraine to a predictable laundry list of problems at home, hoping to hit reset on his crippled domestic agenda.
The answer is not to defund the police, it's to fund the police.
At a moment testing America's strength, the president declaring,
the State of the Union is strong because you, the American people, are strong.
In Washington, D.C., Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.